What is a blitz in the NFL? If you guys watch football, if you're trying to get into the game, you probably watched the game and you've heard the announcer say something like, oh, here comes the blitz, or the defense is showing blitz, something like that. And if you're new to the game, then you probably don't know what that means. So I'm going to explain to you what an NFL blitz is. So on a regular defensive play, a team is usually going to rush 3 to 4 defensive linemen to try to get into the backfield and sack the quarterback. And to break it down as simple as possible, what a blitz is when a team sends more than 3 or 4 guys into the backfield. When they start sending 5 to 6 to 7 guys. That's what an NFL blitz is. So whereas typically you have your offensive lineman protecting the quarterback and then you have your 3 or 4 defenders rushing to try to get to the quarterback, a blitz is when the defense sends, like I said, 5 or 6 different guys. So they're going to send more people than usual. So what this does is that the offensive line now has to account for more people than they thought or anticipated. And sometimes the offensive line is just completely outnumbered with the blitz. So if you're putting 2 and 2 together, the reason why a defense would decide to blitz some players is to be able to get into the backfield. If you have that many guys rushing the offensive line, chances are one of them is going to be able to get into the backfield and get a sack. And if the defensive line isn't able to get a sack, then at least they're going to be able to apply pressure on the quarterback. And this pressure can lead to a quarterback making a bad throw that can either end up intercepted or can end up in an incompletion. So obviously there's a bunch of different ways that a defense can blitz. It's usually divided into 2 categories. So you have zone coverage and man coverage. And within those 2 categories, there's a bunch of different plays that a defense can run in which they can blitz players. Now to get a little historical, there's been a bunch of teams throughout the history of the NFL that are known for their defenses and for their blitzing. One of these is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in the 1970s that got named the Steel Curtain because their defense was so overwhelming and they were pretty much dominating the league at the time. Blitzing is oftentimes associated with the Steelers because of the Steel Curtain, and in a sense, they're the ones that popularized blitzing. Now, this technique and their top-tier defense led to the Steelers winning a bunch of Super Bowls during the 70s, and they became one of the most iconic defenses in NFL history. Another example would be the Atlanta Falcons in 1977. So in 1977, the Atlanta Falcons had arguably the best defense in the history of the NFL. That season, their defense was top tier. They were dubbed the Grits Blitz because they were also popular for their blitzing, and they were dominating any team that they would face. Their defense was elite. They were leading the league in every single category. And they had, like I said, the best defense in NFL history. Now, it's a shame because the Falcons back then didn't have a good offense at all. In fact, their offense was honestly kind of pathetic. And it's a shame because they weren't able to utilize their defense. They weren't able to bring that defense anywhere. And it's funny because the year after, the defense just wasn't as good. That 1977 year for the Falcons, nothing compares to that because that's the best defense they've ever had. And it literally lasted that 1 year and then it was gone. And another example we have is the 1985 Chicago Bears. Now, Chicago has historically been very good. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore. It sucks if you're a Chicago fan. But in 1985, the Bears team, especially their defense, is probably one of the best teams that has ever touched the football field. Their defense was an integral part in them winning the Super Bowl that year in 1985 against the New England Patriots. You guys probably heard the saying that defense wins championships, and obviously that's not always the case, but it does help to have a great defense behind you. And one thing that most of these defenses have in common is the fact that they were blitzing a lot. When you're able to apply that much pressure on the quarterback, it, like I said, increases A, your chances of getting a sack, B, your chances of getting an interception because the pressure on the quarterback forces him to make a bad throw, or just leads to an incompletion because once again he's making a bad throw. So blitzing is really useful. Obviously you don't want to over blitz because there are risks involved with that. If you're blitzing, obviously it leaves spaces on the field where wide receivers can be open or running back can be open, so you want to be able to account for that. But throwing in a blitz every once in a while definitely helps. So yeah, in conclusion, that's what a blitz is. It's just when you're sending more guys than you usually would to add pressure to the quarterback. If you guys have any other questions about the NFL or just football in general, make sure to leave it in the comments. I would love to answer that for you. I really want to help you guys understand the game and find more love for the game. And I like doing these kind of videos because it also allows me to discover some things that I didn't know. And that's honestly one of the big reasons why I started my channel to begin with, because I love football. I've always loved football. And making these videos allows me to understand how the league works. It teaches me some new things. And it's also hard to keep up with the NFL when you're an adult, when you're working, you have so many commitments. So making these videos, like I get to research certain players, I get to find out who's hot, like who's one of the most popular players at the moment, and just a bunch of things. So making these videos I think is really fun. I get to learn a lot and I want you guys to learn a lot as well. So if you guys want more videos like this, if you want to learn more about the NFL, make sure to like this video. Like I said, comment any questions that you might have, subscribe to the channel, and there are going to be more videos coming up soon. Thank you guys so much for the support. I'll see you guys on the next one.